All right, so let's get started. So last week, in the last meeting, we learned the art movement, the modern art movement before the avant-garde, right? So I said the modern art is divided as two, before the avant-garde, after the avant-garde. So in the last meeting, we learned realism, impressionism, and post-impressionism as the art movement before the avant-garde. And today we are going to see the modern art after the avant-garde, to show the newest art. So there are Fauvism, Expressionism, Cubism, Futurism, Dada, Surrealism, Idealism. But today we're gonna see this top 5 art movements, and then the rest of them we will see next week. Next class. Okay, so let's see what the avant-garde is first. Oops. So avant-garde was originally a military term referring to the detachment of soldiers that went first into battle. Avant-garde, which is a French term, means newest, latest, and most advanced art. By the 1880s, younger artists began to refer to themselves as the avant-garde. And they were the boldest artists going first into uncharted territory and waiting for others to catch up. Newest and change became artistic ideals. Each generation, even each group, believed that it was their duty to go further than the one before. So the first art movement is Fauvism. In 1904, the artists of Salon de Rome organized a large exhibition of Cézanne, and in 1906, they mounted a major retrospective of Gauguin, who is the father of the modern art. And in 1906, they mounted a sorry, I just read that sentence. But the most notorious exhibit of the Salon de Rome was the one they organized for themselves in 1905. It was then that a critic dubbed them Fauves and wild beasts. The artist who emerged as the leader of this wild new trend in painting was Henri Matisse. So this is Henri Matisse, who is a French artist, and he was a draftsman, printmaker, and sculptor, but he is known primarily as a painter. Matisse is commonly regarded, along with Pablo Picasso, as one of the artists who best helped to define the revolutionary developments in the visual art throughout the opening decades of the 20th century, responsible for significant developments in painting and sculpture. So everyone look at this painting. So during this 5 years, Matisse often painted landscapes in the south of France during the summer and worked up ideas developed there into larger compositions upon his return to Paris. So this painting's title is The Joy of Life. How does it look like? How do you think about this painting? Everyone?
I like the colors.
You like the color?
It looks like they're relaxing, right?
It's a lot of nudity though.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a nude beach.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yes, it's like that. They're so enjoying there, right? Yep, definitely. And the colors, the bright colors are, kind of shocking to us, right? But we can see they're so enjoying the life now in this painting. So the joy of life, this painting, is the second of his important imaginary compositions, and which is typical of these. So he used a landscape he had painted in Korea to provide the setting for the idol, but it is also influenced by ideas drawn from Watteau, Pushkin, Japanese woodcuts, Persian miniatures, and 19th century's Orientalist images of harems. The scene is made up of independent motifs arranged to form a complete composition. The massive painting and its shocking colors received mixed reviews at the Salon des Independents. And critics noted its new style, like broad fields of color and linear figures. And this is another Henri Matisse painting, The Dance. The final version of The Dance has a very different emotional character. It has been described as forbidding, menacing, tribal, ritualistic, even demonic. So drum beats almost seem to be heard as the simple pleasure of the original is overwhelmed. And the next art movement we are going to see is Expressionism. The Expressionism's fundamental purpose of art was to express their intense feeling toward the world. Expression describes any style where the artist's subjective feelings take precedence over objective observation. So I will show you two artists. The first artist is this, Edward Munch. So Edward Munch is the best known as being a Norwegian-born expressionist painter and printmaker. In the late 20th century, he played a great role in German expressionism and the art form that later followed, namely because of the strong mental anguish that was displayed in many of the pieces that he created. So this is the painting which is the most famous expressionism painting. How do you think about this painting? What kind of emotion can you feel through this painting?
He's scared.
Yes, definitely. Yes, looks like he's screaming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Munch recalled that he had been out for a walk at sunset when suddenly the setting sunlight turned the cloud a blood red. He sensed an infinite scream passing through nature, and scholars have located the spot to a field overlooking Oslo, and have suggested other explanations for the unnaturally orange sky, ranging from the effects of volcanic eruption to a psychological reaction by Munch to his sister's commitment at a nearby lunatic asylum. And this is the next expressionist artist, Vasily Kandinsky. Vasily Kandinsky used to be a musician, so his work of art looks like very rhythmical and musical. Kandinsky was one of the pioneer of abstract modern art and exploit the evocative interrelation between color and form to create an aesthetic experience that engaged the light, sound, and emotions of the public. So this is his work. He believed that total abstraction offered the possibility for profound, transcendental expression, and that copying from nature only interfered with this process. And this is another his painting with geometric shapes and lines. Looks very rhythmical. And the next art movement after the avant-garde we are going to see is Cubism. Cubism is a style of painting and sculpture developed in the early 20th century, characterized chiefly by an emphasis on formal structure, the reduction of natural forms to their geometrical equivalents, and the organization of the planes of represented object independently of representational requirements. So the most famous artist of Cubism is, can you guess who it is? The Cubism artist. Do you know who you are? Nobody knows?
Pablo Picasso.
Yes, Pablo Picasso. So this is Georges Braque's Cubism work of art. Now, Georges Braque is Pablo Picasso's friend, right? Who created the collage work based on the Cubism technique. So let's see Pablo Picasso in detail. Pablo Picasso is probably the most important figure of 20th century in terms of art and art movements that occurred over this period. Before the age of 50, the Spanish-born artist had become the most well-known name in modern art, with the most distinct style and eye for artistic creation. So, Pablo Picasso's this is the Pablo Picasso's very aggressive style of Cubism painting. Can you guess what it is in this painting? There is something in this painting. Can you guess what it is?
I think it's a body.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah, there is a body. Yes, there is someone here in the center of this painting.
It's almost like he's turning his back to us. It's like the back of the body, back of a person's head, and their bare back and their arms. I think.
Yeah. I think it's all the like sides of the body.
Oh, yes. So you know what? I'm gonna give some hints. So this is head. This part is head, and this part is shoulder and the body. And this person is holding something here. Can you guess what it is?
It looks like another arm, like a sleeve, but I'm not sure. Another person, maybe? I'm not sure.
Oh, guitarist. I'm sorry.
This is what is
my mic was on mute. So I'm going to give you the answer through the video.
Often referred to.
Professor, the video's muted.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Using light and shadow to create the illusion of three-dimensional form.
The problem that Picasso faced is that the modern world was one that felt ruptured. Old systems no longer felt valid.
The early 20th century is a time of tremendous upheaval. There is a sense that vision itself is unreliable.
Picasso was grappling specifically with the issue that painting was a kind of illusion, a representation of three-dimensional form and space on a two-dimensional surface.
A system of representation.
So could Picasso invent a new language for representation, but one that was not hiding the two-dimensionality of the
All right. So did you find the answer? So this person is holding a guitar.
canvas, but rather putting that in the forefront. So let's look closely at this painting and see if we can understand how Picasso has done this here. Picasso has simplified the human form.
We see diagonals, horizontals, vertical lines in black. We see circles that intersect.
But it's so abstracted that if we oriented it as if it were a landscape, we might expect to see the rooftops of a village instead of a man holding a guitar.
The fundamentals of perspective that governed Western painting for so long supposed a single viewer fixed in front of a work of art and showed us that view.
And Cézanne in the late 19th century had developed those ideas. Cézanne said, instead of standing in one place, looking from one point in.
So this is a Cézanne, they are talking about the Cézanne. So I just, mentioned in the, in the previous art movement that Cézanne is the father of the modern art. So he started to make this kind of, still life paintings, which is very different style with the traditional paintings like the Baroque or the Renaissance art. So this artist, by this artist, many of modern artists get inspiration, to start the new work of art. So he is very important person, and he also affect on the Pablo Picasso's work.
Space and time, I actually move around the thing that I'm painting.
Even if you don't move around it, what if you slightly turn your head to the right or to the left? The reality is that one's view is constantly changing and shifting.
And Picasso takes that idea and runs with it. What would happen if you represented this man holding a guitar over time from multiple perspectives?
That's a different kind of truth than the truth that Western painting had given us for 500 years.
So this is not less true, it's just differently true.
Picasso has also emptied the painting of much of its color.
And much of its content. We don't see hands, we don't see a face, we don't see emotion. The things that generally draw us into a painting of a person, what Picasso is interested in instead is the structural logic of the language that he's inventing. And he's inventing it not by himself, but with his compatriot George Braque.
And we still do have some illusion of space. There is a shallow relief here. We have light and shade. We have the movement between those pale tones and darker shadows. So there is a suggestion of a form there. This is not entirely flat, but it certainly is reminding us of the flatness of the canvas that this is painted on.
And as you said, he's reducing color so that we focus on line, on form, on mass, on structure. The colors are reduced to some browns and whites and blacks and perhaps some pale greens.
So we have light and shade that suggests three-dimensional form, and we have overlapping of shapes that also suggests depth.
But not deep space. This is a shallow space, maybe a few inches, just enough for the fractured forms that are represented. It's as if Picasso has taken a series of views of the human body and reconstructed them on the two-dimensional plane.
I find a tension between the title, the guitarist, and the painting itself.
Without the title as a prompt, you'd be hard-pressed to locate the man or the guitar. This is a painting that is about the way that painting itself works. Picasso here is on the edge of abstraction, but this is not pure abstraction. It is not entirely divorced from the world that we see. Throughout his entire career, Picasso remained interested in the tension between what we see and the way in which we depict it.
So how do you think about this work?
It's interesting. At first, it was very hard to see, but after watching that video, it gives you an idea like, oh, this man is holding a guitar. So that's really cool.
Yeah, that makes sense, right?
Mm.
Yeah. So again, now for the some of later students, again, this part is head, and this part is body, and arms, holding a guitar. So so Pablo Picasso just simplified all the body parts and reorganized them in this painting. So it was very shocking style. And let's look at this painting. It's so much better than the previous painting, right? It's readable. Yeah, see,
Mhm.
so
True.
much easier, yeah. So how do you think about this painting? When you can, what kind of feeling can you feel through this painting? How they look like?
Women, I hope.
Yes,
Not so
they're
they're
women.
not really
Yes.
attractive.
Yeah, they're physically
women.
women. Yes, yes.
With different facial expressions, and actually the two in the center, they look the same, but the one on the right, two on the right, they look deformed a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Like maybe they're like morphing into something. I'm not sure, but
Very sharp.
changing. So yeah.
Very good. Yes. Yes. Very good. You know what, everyone? If you want to see these paintings, the original painting, you can see it in the MoMA, modern art, the Museum of Modern Art in the New York City, because this work is a part of the permanent collection of the museum. So, it's a large oil painting created in 1907. So I really recommend to see it in person in that museum. So this painting portrays 5 nude female prostitutes in a brothel on Avignon. Each figure is depicted in a disconcerting, confrontational manner, and none is conventionally feminine. The women appear slightly menacing and are rendered with angular and disjointed body shapes. The 3 women, this on the left, exhibit the facial features in the Iberian style of Picasso's native Spain, while these two on the right are shown with African mask-like features. The racial primordialism evoked in these masks, according to Pablo Picasso, moved him to liberate an utterly original artistic style of compelling, even savage force. So let's see the Guernica series. So we know this painting, right? The Guernica. So on 26 April 1937, the Air Force of Nazi Germany bombed the Basque town of Guernica in Spain. The attack was carried out in support of General Franco's naturalist forces. It was one of the worst atrocities of the Spanish Civil War, and Pablo Picasso responded to the massacre by painting a large anti-war mural, Guernica, and he also made a number of additional paintings of a figure form, the mural, a woman holding her dead child. And this one, the weeping woman, is the last of the series. The figure is based on the artist and photographer Dora Maar, who documented the making of Guernica. So in 1914, the conflict broke out in the Balkan Peninsula, and soon, as the result of treaties and alliances, every major power in Europe was drawn into war. Soldiers with their heads full of gallant ideas about battle rushed headlong into the most horrible death imaginable. So in 1916, a group of artists waiting out the war in drag in neutral Switzerland banded together as a protest art movement called Dada. Dada was anti-art, anti-middle class society, anti-politicians, anti-good manners, anti-business as usual, and anti all that had brought about the war. So in that sense, Dada was big no, but Dada was also big yes. So yes to creativity, to life, to silliness, to spontaneity. So let's see the Dadaism artist. Marcel Duchamp. Now we saw his work of art before. What kind of art he made? Do you remember it? Come on, it was one of the questions in the midterm, everyone.
Oh, that fountain.
Oh yes, fountain. Yes, very good. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to hear that. Thank you.
I don't even think I got it right on the test though.
Yeah,
That's the funny part.
Thank you so much to remember it. That is ready-made, right? This Dadaist artist Marcel Duchamp made it. So Marcel Duchamp was a French-American painter, sculptor, chess player, and writer whose work is associated with Cubism, Dada, and conceptual art. So this work. So let's talk about this work. Can you tell me about this work, what you can see here? It's another challenge.
A collection of tools, maybe?
Oh, connection of tools. Wow. Very, yeah, it can be. Yeah, it looks like that. Yeah.
Like it's hanging on something, you know? So it looks like tools to me. I don't know.
Maybe. Okay. So here's a hint.
The highway to me.
What, Sophia?
It looks like the highway or the road.
Oh,
Like if you're looking at it from like the top.
Very nice. Oh, yeah, it can be. Yes, very good. So, you know what? The interpretation can be different by the viewers. Yes, because it's an abstract art. Yeah. Let's look at the title, Nude Descending a Staircase. So someone is, going down to the stairs. So this work is widely regarded as a modernist classic and has become one of the most famous of its time. Before its first presentation at the 1912 Salon des Indépendance in Paris, it was rejected by the Cubists because it's too futurist art style. So Marcel Duchamp captured all single moment, when the person is going down to the stairs. Yes, finally, the ready-made. The ready-made of Marcel Duchamp are ordinary manufactured objects that the artist selected and modified as an antidote to what he called retinal art. So by simply choosing the objects and repositioning or joining, titling, and signing it, the found object became art. Oops. Okay, so we're gonna see the surrealism in the next meeting, and let me share today's discussion. So this is it. So everyone, please go to week 13 and go find discussion 13.1. So this is today's topic. the modern art is divided as big two threads by avant-garde. So what's the difference and why are they different? So please answer this topic. So I'm gonna give you some hints for that. So I mentioned last week when I talk about this timeline. So here is the avant-garde, right? And the modern, the modern art movement before the avant-garde are still based on the observational styles, right? Because the photographs development was just a baby step, but after daguerreotype, many of people can use the camera everywhere. So recording painters are no longer needed. So that's why there was a huge art movement arose called the avant-garde. So after avant-garde, there are lots of diverse art styles arose. So that is the huge hint to answer the today's discussion topic. Any question about today's discussion?
No, Professor.
Right, very good. Okay, so everyone, just took a picture of your attendance.